The Walking Dead Season 6, Episode 12, Not Tomorrow Yet, is over. But we're just getting started here on Post-Show Recaps. It's The Walking Dead live on Post-Show Recaps. Hello, everybody. I'm Josh Wigler. Rob Sesternino, he has the night off. That's okay. Sucks for him. Huge episode to unpack. I have somebody here who I'm very excited to talk to. He is usually here on the Walking Dead podcast, but always behind the scenes. He is going to help me find the honeypot this week. We have Alex Kidwell online. Alex, what's going on?
Hey, Josh, how's it going? I'm excited to finally talk this stuff through with you.
Yeah. Alex, our first podcast together, too. So cheers to that.
I know it's exciting. Although I thought about this earlier, we have to be careful because if we're not careful, me and you both have, we can go on tangents. If we're not careful, I think it'll be me and you will be the only ones laughing. So
oh my God. It is my kryptonite. I do tend to ramble. We will try and watch it tonight. Especially, we got to keep it as tight as possible because there's just so much to unpack. Last week on the Walking Dead Live podcast, and even in the feedback show that I did with Rob, we were kind of talking about how this week would probably be a little talky. They have to go back to Alexandria and figure out how are we going to do the Negan thing? What's the plan? What's that all going to look like? It's probably going to be a lot of talking heads. Turns out it was crazy Walking Dead. It was an action-packed episode. Lots of smaller stuff happened too, but that was, for my money, one of the biggest action scenes we've ever gotten on the show.
Yeah, no, pretty incredible. Yeah, I mean, I certainly thought you guys had a lot of good points in what you were saying about last week, and that it seems like, certainly we're not going to just jump to the conclusion really quickly with this whole kind of saviors arc, but yeah, I mean, tonight, right? You've got these like big scale ethical dilemmas you can talk about. You've got these interpersonal situations. You've got like the metaphorical loss of innocence. There's a lot going on here.
We're going to talk about a lot of ethical dilemmas, and it's going to be very, very fun stuff here on Post-Show Recaps tonight. We are live, of course. If you are watching this in the chat room, Alex is pulling your questions on postshowrecaps.com, also on the YouTube page, and you can tweet our way using the hashtag PSRecaps. We'll take all your questions later on in the episode. Let's just dive into this thing. Let's start with the raid on Negan's compound. I mean, going into the episode with that very first scene of the episode, I was really excited because I thought that the big lead story we were going to have tonight was that Carol's cookies have made a comeback. But that's like the fifth story that we've got to talk about here tonight.
Seriously. Yeah, Acorn and Beet, Josh. What are your thoughts on that?
And Beet. What beats that? That's pretty so what did you think? Top to bottom, this big action scene that happens at the end of the episode, it starts off kind of quietly. All hell breaks loose when the alarm, it goes off. What was going through your head throughout this scene, Alex?
Intense, it's just like, they really painted a good picture of I think in part because it's, it's kind of a compound, like almost an X-Men compound that they've got over there with the saviors. And, they're just kind of creeping around the corridors and you don't really know what's around the next turn. And I really thought, for just, the cinematography of it all and kind of the scale and this like dilapidated kind of rusty looking compound, I thought it was just all very cool. And I was just riveted. I just didn't know what was coming next. It was really, top-notch Walking Dead as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, the tell should have been that this was an episode directed by Greg Nicotero, who is one of the frequent directors on the show. He's a co-executive producer of the show. He's a legendary zombie effects and just horror effects makeup artist. And when you get that guy to direct your episode, I don't think that you just have him for a talkie episode. You have him because there's either going to be some crazy zombie action going on or just a big action scene to begin with. And we certainly got that tonight. Yeah, it was wild. It escalated really, really quickly. What did you think about the plan? Rick leaves the hilltop. Maggie comes up with this, truce with Gregory, and they basically say, we're gonna take half of your stuff, and in exchange, we're going to kill Negan. We're going to end the Savior's problem. That's going to be a thing. This is the plan they come up with. They are going to present this fake head of Gregory to these people and hopefully trick them. It seems like it works. They're going to infiltrate from there. They're going to try and destroy the armory. They're going to do it as quietly as possible. Did you think that this was a good plan?
It seems logical if terribly optimistic, right? I mean, it certainly seemed like they were looking at it from the best possible case scenario, and it didn't seem like a lot of time was put into well, what if something goes wrong, or what if this happens? Like we know their armor is here, but we're kind of winging some of this stuff. Like our intel is pretty, our scouting was a little, rushed, a little hasty. It didn't seem like we had a lot to work with there, but I mean, you do see Rick, this side of him where they're like, well, we've got a problem. The guy's nose, and he's just like, looks good to me, just knocks the nose the way he wants. I mean, Rick is now in problem solving mode. He's no longer I'm going to wait and kind of hope circumstances improve Rick. He's the I see odds better now than they will be. if they were to discover our existence, so we strike while the iron's hot. And that's kind of the game he's playing.
The whole punching the zombie head in the face to break its nose to make it look more like Xander Berkeley, the actor who plays Gregory, I thought that was incredible.
So great.
And I feel like, I think that like the moment for me that probably most epitomizes Rick Grimes at his most Rick Grimes is probably still when he bit that dude's throat out, when he bit Joe the Claimer's throat out back at the end of season 4. But I feel like this has to come close. Like, I don't think that it dethroned it, but I think that it's in like, it's the top 3 Rick Grimes moments of just pure Rick Grimes ridiculousness, holding a severed head and just like punching it over and over again until it gets the nose just right. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's been a great Rick season so far because actually, there was another good one last week where he just stabs the throat and what? Like that.
Yeah, right.
This has been some classic Rick so far at season 6 that we've had.
Yeah, well, we were worried that Rick is happy now. He got over the Jesse thing. That was a couple months ago. He's healed from that. He's with Michonne now. Michonne has finally happened. It's happy business for Rick. He's kind of closer to Farmer Rick from back in the early season 4 days, or at least we thought that maybe that was the direction he was going. But no, Psycho Rick, Killer Rick, he is alive and well tonight.
He's got his head on straight-ish, I guess.
At least somebody does.
For his standards, it's on pretty straight.
So let's talk through the raid a little bit more. Let's talk through that scene. We have the guy from the hilltop whose name I'm blanking on. He shows up and he shows them the head, and that seems to work. We get a little bit of a happy birthday tune. How did you think that this was going to play out? Did you think these guys were going to buy that was Gregory's head? You thought this was going to work?
Oh man, yeah, it was really tense. I think they really did a good job of showing the guy's face looking like not making good eye contact, and all my Survivor and Big Brother skills came up in this moment where I'm like, oh no, you got to make eye contact, you got to sell this lie. Like, I'm just worried for this guy, But yeah, no, I thought it was going to be a situation. He has backup, so you certainly don't think he's in. They wouldn't just leave him out there, hang him out to dry. But it looked like a really tense situation, and I was wondering is this the plan? What is the plan? It doesn't seem like a good plan, but yeah, I mean, the one guy goes in and they just make the other guy disappear real fast, which was incredible. And the plan went into effect very quickly.
I feel like if there's, because Rob's not here, and I feel like I know what Rob would say in this moment. I feel like I know Rob's critique would be, did the guy have to say I punched him in the face, he broke my hand, so that's why his nose looks that way? I feel like, did you have to volunteer that yourself? Couldn't you wait for them to be like, this doesn't look like Gregory? He just felt very panicked to me. I felt like that was not a great look for this guy.
Yeah, see, I feel like that's Rob, as a good Survivor player coming up, because some people are just when you're trying to get over a lie and there's that awkward silence, bad liars have this intuition that's let me add to the lie, which is really the worst thing you could do. But in the moment, it seems like the move. So you the nose of the hand, you know what I mean? Yeah, no, that's not good lying, but that's instinctual. So yeah. I did like it from the character perspective.
Yeah, I thought it was good from the character perspective, but it was just kind of that would set off some alarms.
You're blowing it, man. Come on.
Yeah. So they get past these guys, they get into the compound, they start going around, they start getting very stab happy with everybody. They're killing all these people in their sleep. I don't know what your sleeping patterns are like, Alex, but I would be up. I'm a light sleeper. These guys were heavy sleepers, almost to the exact letter. These people, to the person, they were just able to sleep through freaking anything, which feels like that would be a bad trait to have in the zombie apocalypse. But they were just able to totally sleep through all of these people coming in and stabbing people in the heads in the middle of the night.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. Although myself, I am a very heavy sleeper, so I assume I would be right there. Yeah. I'm in trouble for this. So,
and I don't want to say that I wouldn't be in trouble. I mean, I think that I would probably just scream and cry for mommy very quickly earlier than the alarm got pulled. I would still be dead, but I would not have slept through that.
Yeah, if I'm Negan and I'm calling the shots over at the compound, I want rotating guard shifts much more frequently than every 3 hours. Let's keep it, because that's too risky for me. I'm a heavy sleeper.
What did you think of that whole sequence where Rick, he's the first one to do it, where he's stabbing one of these guys in the head, and it really does look like, it's very reminiscent of the way that they just kill walkers. It was so matter of fact.
Yeah, right. And to not, a couple of those scenes where you see kind of the face of the person committing the act as opposed to the act itself. I thought that was very interesting, very kind of artistic, if you will. I like that. I definitely, I think there's a lot of interesting parallels between kind of this storming of this compound and the way the governor just stormed the prison, because you have to assume that these are bad guys. Certainly you saw their Polaroids on the wall of like sick zombie fetish pictures or whatever is going on that they're
I feel like you
capturing.
see that and suddenly like you can sleep a little better about
like,
what you just did.
All right, at least they're probably monsters. Like we thought they were monsters. There's a little more in the confirmation, you know what I mean? So yeah.
They're into zombie porn, so at the very least they're freaky.
Yeah, right. It's true. But like at the same time, it does invoke a little bit of that, like, where's the line? You are in a sense murdering people who you have no idea. Like some of these people could have just been following orders, and it really is. It's like something that comes up throughout human history. Is like, where is who's to blame for things, and where does fault lie if people have like a commander that tells them what to do and it's horrible? Or it's very interesting stuff.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I think that this is the big question of the show. Very often, it's very often on the mind of The Walking Dead just anyway, but it was very much on the mind tonight. And I know I caught a little bit of Talking Dead before we came on here, and it was a topic that was coming up with the actress who plays Tara, who was on the show, who just had a baby, by the way, Mazel Tov, Tara. That's very good news. Apparently, she was 9 months pregnant while shooting this episode.
Oh, wow.
So that's pretty wild.
Well, it is a little bit of a safer world to have a baby in, I think.
In our world, yeah.
In our world, yeah.
But they were talking to her about, how is this different from when the governor stormed the prison back in season 4? Why is this a different situation, what Rick is doing now versus what the governor did back then? Is there really a big line in the sand? And for you, do you feel like this is a bridge too far for Rick? Or do you feel like, and not just Rick, but for Rick's people, do you feel like this was, does this push them towards darker territory, or have they just kind of been living in this place for a while anyway?
I think it certainly like creates the scenario where you could have that perspective, but I also think the show is kind of emphasize that this is the right thing to do. Like certainly from the very first moment we saw Negan's men, like they seemed like kind of another level of villain, almost not in the sense that they're more dangerous per se, but I mean, just the coldness and like the complete lack of emotion and empathy. Like, the Wolves had that to a degree, but those guys on the bikes, man, like there was something just chilling about them. Right. And I think, if those are just henchmen, if those are like the putties of the army, then certainly you've got to be terrified about whatever comes above. You know what I mean?
Oh, man. I didn't expect a putties reference, but I'm very happy. This is good.
Never know what you get with me, man.
All right. How about Glen? Glen and Heath earlier in the episode, they have their conversation about, have you killed anyone? No. Have you? No, not me. And they're kind of talking about, how they imagine that's going to have an impact. They're both very nervous about it. It's, kind of rare for people in this world to have survived this long, a couple years now at this point in the apocalypse, and have not had to really face that situation down yet. Certainly for Glen, it is a thing that we've noticed, or it's been talked about a little bit with Glen as a character, that he is, if not, I think that he's the only main character on the show who hadn't taken a human life. And tonight he pops that cherry. He kills a person. He kills 2 people, and then it escalates to a bunch of people, a pile of people. What did you think about Glen finally going there, and what do you think that means for his character?
Yeah, it's like, what's your Walking Dead number, right? I thought it was very interesting when Carol was like coming to her tally, and it was like
a little low, 18. I felt like it would have been higher than that.
Well, I think it's like a bit of a statement that she's not too far gone to remember how many, you know what I mean? Like, right. I think that is a bit of a statement of a character if it's so many that they can't remember. So the fact that she still has some idea means she is retaining humanity in a good way, I think. But yeah, I mean, with Glen, I really had to do a double take, and I'm like, really, he hasn't killed anybody? Because it seems like, I mean, it's been so long, and we've certainly seen them have conflict with people. I mean, we know by now that people are more dangerous than walkers in this world. So I am surprised, but I guess Glen really hasn't taken a life. So this was a huge deal. And and then for him to do it, and then, to push Heath's hand down, and kind of, that was such a sad, but like tender moment. It's like, there's no sense in both of us just ruining our innocence and like, embracing this horrible kind of next level that needs to be gone to, you know what I mean? So it was a very touching moment, even in its like horror,
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, he does spare Heath from having to go there, but at the much later in the episode, or I guess not much later, but later on, they are both trapped in the armory, and they're shooting at the people who are rushing at them, and they couldn't claim any single one of those individually as their own kills. It's very likely that Heath is responsible for some death there, so he spares Heath in the moment, but nobody walks away from this thing clean. Like, everybody walks away having killed someone.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. It's kind of reminiscent of like a lot of what we see in The Walking Dead, which is like this great effort made for an ideal that ultimately is kind of like in vain because it's just not a world where ideals can exist to the same level.
Right. So now that Glenn has done this, now that Glenn has killed people on the show, is he just going to become like the Terminator? Is it going to be easier for him now, or you think that this is still going to be a tough thing for him moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think it could go, it could go a couple ways. It could, empower him to a degree, although, from the face that he was making afterwards, I think it really, and then the fact that, Maggie is now at the end of the episode, we find out, Maggie's in trouble. I think this is really going to be a point for Glenn where he's really going to, I hope it doesn't cause him to just break down, but I do worry that this is a moment that he's going to struggle to sleep. His character may struggle to sleep for a few weeks. Like he's certainly somebody that feels, it has very emotionally in tune with people. And that's been a big part of why he's been able to reach out to people that Rick hasn't been able to reach, like Enid and like some of the other people that haven't been reached by anyone else. But at the same time, that can make him very fragile.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that this is like the worst thing that's happened to him so far this season, and he spent like several episodes sleeping in a dumpster or under a dumpster. But he does talk about that when he's having that conversation with Heath, where like, have you ever like seen something so awful that you can't sleep because you wake up and you still see it, or you can't eat because it pops into your head? I got to imagine that killing somebody is worse than that. So I guess we'll see if that theory holds water. We'll see if we have a really traumatized Glenn after this. I mean, I think what we're missing, we'll talk about it in a little bit, is Glenn is probably going to be pretty distracted in the upcoming moment. The fact that Maggie has been taken. So we'll talk about that. So he might have a little bit of time that he needs to process everything that went down. How about Father Gabriel? What do you want to?
How about Father Gabriel?
How about Father Gabriel, who we have bagged on these podcasts for 2 years now, pretty much.
Yeah.
And he has earned a lot of that. He has earned a lot of that score, and I feel like props are deserved. Give props where they're due. Father Gabriel, big coming out party for badass Father Gabriel tonight.
Yeah, really. I mean, this is like, I'm kind of like this is a very nerdy reference, but he's like the, like if you play like Dungeons and Dragons or anything like that, he's like the cleric now. He's like the holy warrior, just like coming through with like the shotgun. Go with God, bitch.
Right.
It's fantastic. Like, this is what I've always wanted from my Father Gabriel.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying, I've seen this online, of like, he had like his Julius from Pulp Fiction moment. He gives them like his version of the Ezekiel 25:17 before he kills that guy. But I mean, it's referenced earlier in the episode, and we started seeing it a little bit, in the first half of season 6 also, where Gabriel was saying to Carl, like, teach me how to do it. I want to kill people. I want to be on your side. I want to know how to shoot. I want to be a help around here. That was still back in the day where Rick Grimes was like slapping pamphlets out of his hand, so he wasn't really interested. But basically, since the time jump, Father Gabriel has really seemingly wanted to earn his keep and has really kind of expressed that and is showing it, and he really delivers tonight. He has a good scene with Rick before this whole thing goes down, where he's talking about how, like, I will still, I'm still wearing the frock and everything because I'm still the guy that I am. I'm still the guy that I was. I'm just kind of a better version of me. Plus, it's like camouflage at night, so it's useful as well. But it was cool. It was cool to see that actualized version of Gabriel, a guy that we've really been so thumbs down on throughout these I guess however many episodes, almost 2 full seasons of Father Gabriel, and he really came through tonight.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. I mean, it really was a situation where he's like gone through a bit of a crucible, where he had this kind of like emotional turmoil and he was questioning his own faith, which is his everything, and on the other side, he's like this emotional rock now, he's stable. He's there for Tara when Tara is emotionally struggling. Like, he's never been this guy. So it is cool to see, like, and I think that's an interesting element of The Walking Dead. This world is so crazy that no one can stay emotionally strong all the time. But as long as you have this like community of people that we have, and some of them are strong while others are getting weak, and then the ups and downs, as long as they're not all down at the same time, they can still function and pick each other up. And it really is cool how the show works in that way.
So all hell breaks loose. The siren gets pulled. The silent tactics of stabbing people in the head and trying to solid snake their way through this thing. It really comes up. They have to break out the guns. No silencers required. Just full blast. They end up killing basically everybody in the compound except for the guy on the motorcycle and apparently some people outside. But when daylight hits and they go outside and the thing is over, was there any moment for you where you thought, they did it, it's over, the Saviors, that's done, we got them, that's great, well done, mission accomplished?
Oh no.
Hang up the banner in the background, mission accomplished, we did it.
Too easy. My first thought was they're going to come outside and just like be surrounded and get it, like drop them. You know what I mean? My second thought was like, okay, so Negan's like an Osama bin Laden type with multiple compounds all over the place. And he's just stashed at some other compound right now. You know what I mean? But it all seemed way too easy. This guy has been set up for too long for that to just be, you know, a one done type situation. And they're like, oh, don't know which one was Negan, but I guess we got him.
So what do you think? Do you think that it's that? I feel like that's a good theory, that this was just like one of their spots. You know, it's like, does Negan have a bunch of spots? Was this just one thing that they hit?
Yeah, no, I think, you know, it could be that, or, you know, maybe there's like a bunker. I don't know. It certainly seems like this group, I mean, that was not only like a perfect type of military looking compound with no real windows and like stone walls and everything, but I mean, their armory was all assault weapons. I mean, you got to figure whatever the group this is has been not bouncing around the way kind of our group has, but probably since day one has been stockpiling and amalgamating or whatever. And so it's scary. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know what, you know, you've only seen, I think, the tip of the iceberg probably. So it's hard to know what else could be under there.
Yeah, it was really legit when you got to look in that armory, and Glen and Heath were able to just like turn the tables on the people that were rushing at them. It's like they really had like their pick.
Yeah,
you could really pick all kinds of firepower.
And every guy in there seemed like a, you know, Blackwater, like military op kind of guy, which, you know, makes you wonder, like, did they only recruit those kind of guys? That's scary too. You know what I mean? So there's a lot to wonder about still.
Well, that's an interesting thing. What kind of information do you feel like we know about the Saviors at this point based on this firefight? We have seen human versus human conflict in the past on The Walking Dead, but I think that we both agree that this was probably the most heightened instance of like highly trained people going against highly trained people. You know, we've seen the Wolves earlier in this season, that JSS episode, which was so badass, but that was really more of just like a pandemonium, like kind of barbarian raid. This is, you know, highly trained individuals going up against highly trained individuals. What do you feel like you learned about the Saviors tonight?
Yeah, it's interesting. And I felt like the first thing, you know, from the moment those two guys come out, I'm like, that's like military tactics. You know what I mean? The one covered the, you know, the kind of operations that Rick and his gang has gotten accustomed to, like cover your six and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like they clearly knew what they were doing. The governor's group was well armed, but they were not disciplined like in that style. The Wolves were not like disciplined. They were fighters, but they weren't well armed. I think the only group you've seen that's even resembling this is that group, like Joe's group, whatever that group was.
The Claimers,
right? That tried to, you know, get Daryl to join them, but even they had no arsenal relative to this group. So yeah, I think this is like a new face of fear as far as The Walking Dead is concerned.
So the cliffhanger of the episode is Maggie and Carol. They have been captured. What's your threat level for these characters right now? How worried are you that the Saviors are going to do something really awful to Maggie and Carol?
Oh, I'm scared. I was already so scared because like the way the last episode ended with everything, you know, surrounding the sonogram and everyone loving I'm like, no, this is scary. This is foreshadowing. And I was already scared that we couldn't do two babies in this world. And it's scary, man. It's a scary time to be a fan.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I mean, this is the argument that we were talking about last week with Rob of like, this is why you don't have Maggie out on the field. You know, this is a nightmare scenario. We have, you know, it's bad enough if any of these people get kidnapped or killed, but this is, you know, a pregnant woman of, you know, this person who they love and have trusted and have lived with for years now that they brought out on this highly, highly dangerous mission. And she's kidnapped. She is now at the whim of a group of survivors of people who have just possibly by the skin of their teeth, just lived by, you know, from just narrowly avoided getting massacred completely. So you got to imagine they are not going to be really psyched with what just happened. And yeah, Maggie and Carol, they're in a very tough spot right now.
Yeah, I can't imagine that, you know, mercy is going to be on the forefront of their mind. It definitely did feel like a little bit of like, you know, was that Chekhov's, you know, yeah, Chekhov's baby picture from last week
Chekhov's
coming up
sonogram.
again, or Chekhov's sonogram. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like if Rob were here tonight, he would be very mad about that. He would be very upset that they brought Maggie out on the field, and of course this happens. And she's left behind with like the most competent person in the group, and even Carol can't get her out of that. So I don't know. We'll see how that plays out next week. Looks like that's going to be a big story to follow next week. Outside of the raid, let's stick with Carol. Because Carol, I think, we've been wondering, where the hell is Carol? Carol has barely been in this season so far. Even, going back to the first half of season 6, she has a huge episode in JSS, but her character hasn't had too much to do so far. She has her big conflict with Morgan. That's really about it. We haven't seen a lot of her recently, especially. She is the first character we see. Tonight, she's back to making cookies, acorn and beets, as we already discussed. What did you think of what we got from Carol tonight?
Oh, that was great. I love the way the episode started, where Carol's like this post-apocalyptic Martha Stewart, right? She's like, yeah. She's got it all going on. She's gardening. She's, working. She's cooking. She's, macrameing, whatever. And then the zombie comes and she's able to, take care of business too. Right. Although I did think it was a little, stop wearing white. Like, haven't we learned not to wear white anymore in this world? Like, you're just going to ruin that blouse.
It's not a good, if you're wearing white, you have to expect that it's going to get dirty. Like, you can't roll your eyes and be frustrated when your white shirt gets covered in blood, because obviously it's going to get covered in blood, especially if you're going to wear it outside the walls of Alexandria. If you want to wear it within the Alexandria community, if you want to wear it within the safe zone, like, I can get behind that. You can get a little annoyed if you get some, if you get some cookie batter on your shirt or whatever. Like, that sucks. It happens every once in a while. You're not at an extreme risk of running into walkers. It's happened before in Alexandria. But if you're outside the walls, don't wear white and expect that shirt to stay clean.
Yeah, seriously. No, there's no tide to go in this world, Carol.
No.
It's not that easily solved. Let's think these things through.
I thought it was very sweet that she baked the cookies and was handing the cookies out to everybody, and she left some cookies behind for Sam at Sam's grave. Did you like that?
That was cute, although it did remind me of the fact that Sam remembered her words when he died.
Yeah.
So your cookies inadvertently killed this kid, Carol. I came to ask you for cookies, and you scared him and told him about monsters, and then he remembered the quote of monsters and froze, and then he got eaten. So it's a little bit of just a reminder of Carol had a hand in that, but it was a sweet gesture.
Is she feeling guilty? Is this her missing Sam? Is she wanting to, do something nice for the kid? Or is it her being total nightmare Carol again? And she's like, I'm going to haunt him to the end of time. I'm just going to remind him of all of these horrible things.
The living person's going to haunt the ghost. That's
right.
That's a great twist.
I mean, I feel it's like one of those Chuck Norris legends. It's like Chuck Norris haunts ghosts. Like, it's Carol haunts ghosts. Like, you could see it.
That's great. Yeah. No, I really don't think, obviously she wasn't in Sam's head when he has that moment. I don't think she knows that it was her quote that made him freeze up like that. So
I don't
obviously
think she even feels any guilt or anything like that.
No, I don't think so. I think she knew, Sam. And even if she doesn't say what she said, Sam is a bit of a baby. It probably happens anyway, right?
Don't be mean to Sam. He's dead. Be nice.
Don't speak ill of the dead.
Don't speak ill of baby Sam.
I think it's just, lamenting what was more than anything. I think she had a fondness in her heart for Sam.
I also liked that she went around and gave cookies to everybody except Morgan, it seems like. And when Morgan was in the scene and when he kind of shows up behind her and she has the Tupperware with cookies inside of it, I certainly thought that she was literally just he was going to be, can I get one of those? She's like, no cookies for you, Morgan. You don't get any of these.
She's the sugar to his Randy Bailey.
Right. Yeah. Denied. Yeah.
Not for you.
Yeah. What did you think of the conflict between Morgan and Carol? Carol was still sitting on the story that Morgan was hiding one of the wolves. This caused a big bit of drama. There was the whole scuffle. It's all apparently stayed out of Rick's. That stayed off of Rick's radar. Do you think that that's a good move for Carol to keep that a secret, or is that going to blow up somehow?
I don't know if it's good or bad so much as just I get it. That was such a crazy night, and things got really kind of turned upside down morally, I think, in a way for Carol, because she was so adamant about killing the guy. And then she did kind of witness that he helped Denise there in his last moment a little bit. And I got the impression that she certainly maybe had a little bit of a change of heart regarding that. So I think that from her perspective, I understand why she did it. And I get why Morgan is the way he is. Obviously, we had a great episode with the cheesemaker where we totally come to understand it. But I think it is interesting that you're starting to see people like Rosita comment about like, well, why does he get to, live for free if he's not going to put in the work? Like, none of us want to do this. You know what I mean? So that's an interesting kind of dilemma that's going to come up if Morgan continues to abstain from work that may need to be done in the future. Wet work, as they say in the military world.
Right. What did you think? What's Morgan working on at the end of the episode? Did you have any idea of what he's doing? We see him with like the mask on and power tools, and he's doing some stuff. What did you think he was up to?
Yeah, I was wondering about that. My takeaway was that this is like Morgan's hobby, and he's just looking for something to do to distract himself from the knowledge that his friends are committing genocide at that moment. Because it's really eating at him. But yeah, I mean I would like to see like what his finished project looks like later. I hope it's something cool.
He's just like making an armory of staves, and he's going to teach martial arts to the kids of Alexandria.
He's like the Bob Vila of Alexandria. It's great.
Morgan Vila. Let's get back to Carol, because it's so nice that The Walking Dead gave Rishon shippers exactly what they wanted. It was pulled straight from the pages of Tumblr and brought to real life. Rishon is a thing. Sadly, Carol, not Carol, but Caryl is not a thing, or at least it is on hold, because Carol and Tobin, Tobin's getting cookies in a different kind of way, it seems like.
Yeah, how about that? I was trying to think of a good name. What do you like? Cabin?
Cabin? Yeah.
Or even Carbine, I guess.
Carbine?
Work as well.
Yeah. Well, let's hear from you guys. Give us your suggestions for Carol and Tobin. Are you shipping that though, Alex? Are you into this? Do you like this?
Oh yeah, good for Carol. She's certainly not had the best history with relationships, and it soured her on them for a long time. So Tobin seems like a nice guy. He's early on he was a bit contrarian, I guess, but he's definitely picking up what Rick and the group are putting down these days. So I like him. He's come a long way.
I was having trouble for the longest time remembering Tobin's name. Like every time Tobin would show up on screen, I would blank on his name. Now I have to pay attention. Now he's hooking up with one of the big deal characters on the show, so it's going to be someone to keep an eye on. I thought that his pickup line was kind of curious. Like, you are everybody's mom. Let's do it. Like, I feel like that's not the thing you say. I don't know.
It's been a long time since Tobin has tried these out at the bar, so he's quite rusty, I would imagine. Yeah, but that's that. No, I don't think so, man.
Hey, Mama Carol, let's go back to my house. Like, I don't know that that's the way you want to do it. At least good on him when Carol's like, wait, do you think I'm your mom? Because like, if that's what's going to happen, I am probably just going to get
out. Yeah.
But no, Mama Carol and Tobin, that is happening. How is this an ill-fated thing? Is this romance? Is this something that you can see lasting for a while, or is this bad news for Tobin, perhaps?
Maybe a little while. I feel like, we haven't seen any relationship on The Walking Dead, with lasting power. Even Abraham and Rosita, which was like our, kind of our measuring stick for lasting relationships. That's done now. So this seems like a world where, if people, even if they find happiness, it seems to be taken from them at some point. But I'd like to think that they'll last for a little while. Hopefully neither one of them will, kind of suffer any kind of, blowback as a result of what just happened. But Carol's in trouble right now. So I guess, she's probably be more worried about her right now, even though she is a staple character.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, worried. You would normally be worried about Tobin. Like, you could see like Tobin being the guy who would lose out in that dynamic. But Carol is in a precarious situation right now. By the end of this episode, do you think that we're being set up for losing Carol? Is that something that you think that the show would be willing to pull the trigger on?
I think that they would. I don't know if they're gonna do it now, but I don't think Carol's off limits at all.
Yeah.
I think, the mere fact that, as far as I know, she's not, a major player in the comics, certainly not to this degree. And I definitely don't think
character in the comics.
Yeah. And I definitely don't think that, the more characters they introduce, I think the less, and the more people stick around, people like Heath, people like Tobin, people like Denise, the less necessary the originals become, So I think, will we lose like Carol and Daryl and Glenn and all the originals? Maybe not, but could we see one, maybe two go in the next season or two? I think it's definitely possible.
All right, let's keep talking about it, because it was really love in Alexandria. It was like love and loss in Alexandria. We had Denise and Tara. Tara drops an "I love you" for Denise. Denise says, "I'll tell you the same thing when you come back from your 2 weeks on the road." That feels like, just say it. Like, you don't have the luxury of holding on to that here in this world, right?
Yeah, that felt like Chekhov's lover's tiff for sure, dude. That was that's very Yeah, the only thought you can have is, I'll tell you when I come back. Like, this is not the world where you get away with that kind of thing. If you want to say something to somebody, you say it, because you never know if you may get the chance again.
That made me very nervous for Tara throughout this episode. The fact that Denise didn't say "I love you" back, and Tara was just on the outskirts of the big raid that goes on at Negan's compound, and I'm kind of just like, oh no, just stray bullet. It's gonna happen. Denise is gonna be so bummed. I was very, very freaked out for Tara tonight.
And even though they did find a new doctor, which makes Denise like somewhat expendable, I certainly think Tara is more expendable to the community than Denise. So
if we were gonna lose a character,
we're gonna lose the character. Yeah, I think Denise is probably safer than Tara because they need her so badly.
Yeah, I would probably sign off on that. And I think Denise has been great. Denise has been such a great addition to the show. I think that especially recently she's been really awesome. So that was a thing that happened. And then it wasn't so great with Abraham and Rosita. Give me the postmortem on that. We see Abraham, he comes back, he breaks it off with Rosita. I guess, his moment of clarity on the hilltop was, I'm Team Sasha all the way.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's the, I actually thought it might have been like his original wife's voice he was hearing in that, moment of choking clarity or whatever it was. But it certainly seemed like his takeaway from that is life is short and it's Sasha who I'm into, and I'm not going to, beat around the bush with this thing anymore. I'm going to make things happen and make myself happy. And certainly that's come at the expense of Rosita's feelings. But hey, Eugene's hanging out. How you doing?
Eugene was great. I love
Virginia's for lovers, baby.
Yeah, he's just wearing a Virginia's for lovers shirt, and he's talking about how the cookies are too chewy.
So what's going on?
Yeah, so Rosita, I can't help but notice that things didn't work out with Abraham.
Yeah, I can't help but eavesdrop on your conversation.
Yeah, he can't, he really can't leave Abraham and Rosita alone. Like, even it's either a moment of extreme hot passion or just the lowest of lows, but Eugene cannot stay away. Very creepy.
It reminds me of the SNL skit where they were talking about, the lovers in the hot tub, and they're talking about, getting together, and Christopher Walken's like, and I was there too.
Yeah. Lava, a rack of lamb. It was ridiculous. But we talk about how Tobin's line to Carol of you're the mom of this group. I love moms. That's just it was kind of a weird pickup line, I thought, in terms of crushing blows of breakup lines. In terms of how you are going to break up with somebody in the zombie apocalypse, it doesn't get more ridiculously, impactful than saying, I thought that you were the last woman on earth. Turns out I was wrong. That's a mic drop. That is the fiercest you can get, I feel like.
Yeah, I think Abraham may have lost some female fans tonight, man. That is not how you treat a lady.
Yeah, it would be one thing if she was a bad person who did something truly dreadful and terrible, and Abraham was totally justified in just breaking her heart in an awful way. But instead, he's Rosita's nice.
Yeah, she practically worshipped him. I mean, she was really into him, clearly, and took care of him and did all kinds of stuff. Yeah,
Rosita didn't do anything wrong. Why are you being such a jerk to Rosita? Yeah, it was uncool. It was uncool. Very funny Abrahamism when he throws out that question: why are dingleberries brown? Just the way shit is. That was good. They really do give Abraham the best lines.
They do. Yep. Yeah. No, there's no debate about it. That's what that character's forte is for sure. It's just delivering that great, it is such a blue collar line every time too. What was it? I can't even say it. Umpin' Buglies or something like that. Yeah.
Umpin' Buglies, yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, he's got good stuff. What do you think is the next step? Do you think that, so Abraham, he's a single man now. Do you see him going to Sasha, making his move, and what is Sasha going to do? Do you think that Sasha is going to be into Abraham at this point?
Yeah, I think that's the move. They certainly, there was the two of them storming the compound together, and it was very much, was Mr. and Mrs. Smith kind of dynamic where they seem to be working together very well in tandem. Yeah, it was awesome. And I got the impression that Sasha was kind of telling when they were off on their little expedition and he got the Navy suit or whatever, that she was really telling him, I'm open to it, but you can't be with Rosita. And so I think that was his, action to kind of show her that, look, I'm committed to you. And yeah, I think she'll be reciprocative.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I think that's going to be an interesting thing. Before we get into questions, we're going to start getting into questions here in a minute. Let me just ask you one more thing about Morgan. And, we see Rick, he takes it to the limit this episode. He decides to go all in on the killing thing. Morgan is the only guy who objects at the church. He's the one who says, like, we can tell them that we can take them out. We can give them the choice. That's surrendering the element of surprise. Nobody really wants to do that. Do you think that is there going to be an I told you so moment from Morgan? Do you think that he is going to be vindicated in any way, shape, or form based on how things are going to play out going forward? What do you think the next step in that sort of philosophical conflict between Rick and Morgan is going to be coming up?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because, certainly it didn't go as planned. So, you can point the finger at the plan and say it didn't work. So therefore maybe Morgan had a point. But at the same time, I don't know that Morgan's kind of wait and see approach. They've tried that in the past and it's come back to bite them. They've seen how kind of ignoring a potential threat that's out there will hurt you in the end with like the Wolves. If they had known these guys were out there and gone after them rather than let them come to them, then they wouldn't have had the problems they had. So yeah, it's a tough, I don't know that there is a right answer. Certainly, I think that the best play from my perspective would have been kind of do what they did, but get a lot more reconnaissance in if you can, really try to understand what you're working with. Although, again, once you see that compound, you realize that might not be possible because they're just so well fortified.
Right. I mean, it did feel like, did we have to do this today? Like, did you have to do it like the next
Can't wait a
day?
week. Yeah.
Can't wait a little bit of time. But, I guess, time is of the essence. They did just send these guys back to the hilltop to make that move. So,
and they were waiting on that head. Yeah,
right,
exactly. The head would expire and get wormy.
Chekhov's head.
You can't have that.
Yeah. All right, let's get into questions from you guys. You can tweet that our way, hashtag PS Recaps. Leave them on postshowrecaps.com in the chat room or on YouTube. You can also be tweeting at Alex and I. Alex is at Alex Kidwell. I'm at Round Howard. Get us those questions. Alex, you're going to be fielding the questions. What do we got to work through to start?
Okay, here's a question from Cabin Douche.
Cabin Douche. Yes.
That can't be all of Negan's group, can it?
No, you got to imagine it can't. I mean, if so, and there's only like 5 Negan people left, then this Saviors thing is going to get wrapped up pretty fast.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, certainly we know there's a couple in the woods, but I got to think there's more, you know what I mean, than just the few in the woods.
Yeah, the people on the radio and the one guy with the motorcycle. And was that Daryl's motorcycle? Is that confirmed?
Yeah, I think it definitely was. Because Daryl, where do you get that motorcycle was the immediate reaction. So right. I think that I took that to mean that it definitely was his bike.
Crossbow can't be far behind, right?
Yeah, picking up the pieces slowly but surely.
Slowly but surely, we're getting the van back together.
Yeah.
Daryl and Carol are not a thing, but I feel like we're not far away from Daryl reuniting with his crossbow. So I feel like that's the second best outcome in terms of romantic relationships with Daryl. Daryl and his crossbow. I think that's my OTP on this.
Yeah, Daryl isn't quite whole as a character without that bow.
We need to get that back. The shotgun's a good look for him, but I want the crossbow back.
Yeah.
What do we got next?
Here's a question from not Stephen Fishback at Haiku Fishback. Why did we not get to see the meeting of Jesus and Father Gabriel?
Oh, that's good. That's a good question because there is a scene where Father Gabriel and Rick, they talk. Jesus is in the background. There is no acknowledgement of Jesus whatsoever. Father Gabriel and Jesus are in the car together with Tara at one point as well. There really were opportunities for it, and I was surprised that it wasn't addressed at all. Were you surprised by that?
I was. And I also thought there was great opportunity when you had Rick delivering this kind of sermon in the church and Jesus is like sitting there under the cross. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
That was pretty good too. So yeah, no, there's definitely some opportunity. I hope we get to see it some going forward because it does seem like it's there to be exploited.
And it's not even like Father Gabriel has, decided to become a stone cold killer and he's given up his beliefs, he's given up his religion or anything. He's talking Bible as he's shooting a person. He's saying to Rick, like, I'm still the same guy. So it's not like he wouldn't be interested in talking to a guy that looks like Jesus, who's also named Jesus. I feel like there could have been a scene there. Maybe that's a deleted scene. Maybe that's going to be on the Blu-ray.
I hope so. I got to find that.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, what do we got next?
Okay, here's a question from Dave Backer. Why was Carol so off her game in this episode? With carbon or too much beet juice? So does love make you soft in the post-apocalyptic world, Josh?
Oh, that's a good question. Was it the beet juice? If you have beet juice 3 times, do bad things happen? I don't know. Did Carol feel particularly off her game to you?
Well, she got caught.
She did get caught.
That's not a typical Carol move to get herself captured. That being said,
she's been captured before, though. I mean, she was captured in the hospital. She got hit by a car.
That's true. Although she with the Terminus people, she was the one that avoided capture. So she has this kind of stigma, I guess, at least for me, of being like the uncapturable Carol. But
even Sarah Connor can get captured every once in a while. Even the T-1000 corners Sarah Connor at certain points.
Yeah, that's good.
But no, I think that I think that she's given the mama bear label by Tobin in the episode. I think maybe that crystallizes things a little bit for her. She's very focused on Maggie, and Maggie should not be out here. Maggie has a child. This is not good for Maggie.
Yeah.
I do feel like maybe that was throwing her off. And, she has this big argument with Maggie. And while there's no time for arguing, it was a bad time to have an argument as the sirens are blaring and presumably the saviors are sneaking up on them to kidnap them.
Yeah, really. I mean, if we're gonna pretend that we're the best of the best, and we're gonna enact this special op here, we can't be. Yeah, the plan. Once the plan's set, we can't be arguing about it in the moment. That's no good.
Yep, that's right. All right, next question, Alex.
Okay. From Fake Mike Boogie. Does anyone other than Tyrese, who's obviously dead, know that Carol had to kill Lizzie? It was referenced in the show. So yeah, when she makes her list of like 18 people she killed, there's a little L towards the top, and I took that to be Lizzie. But yeah, we haven't seen her. I assume other people know about it, right?
Well, Tyrese knew. He's not around anymore. Yeah, I don't recall if it's come up. I feel like maybe did it come up with Daryl? I think she tries to talk about it with Daryl. That episode where Carol and Daryl go into Atlanta to find Beth, and Carol basically says like, "I did horrible stuff. You don't want to know." Or maybe it was Daryl who was like, "I know what you did." But it never was explicitly stated. So I don't think that she has had that explicit conversation with anybody. So maybe she does just have it as L in her book to, limit the information a little more, doesn't want that kind of thing to get out. Or maybe, if she's talking about Candle Lady, like she's giving a nickname to somebody. She's talking about Seven Wolves. She has initials for people. She doesn't even separate Karen and David. She has KD as a line. So I wonder how much is it, restricting information for other people as much as it is like she almost doesn't want to humanize them too much. She doesn't want to personalize it so much because she kind of wants to distance herself from it. But I don't know. The psychology of Carol is an interesting thing.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, because I mean, it does seem like a lot of this she's internalizing, she's holding on to, and she's dealt with it fine so far. She's been able to kind of just grin and bear it through a lot. But you do wonder, is there a point where even Carol can't kind of shoulder the load of all this anymore?
Yeah.
Let's take a question from R. Philly. How high on this Father Gabriel, Jules Winfield turnaround will Rob be when he gets to talk about the episode?
That's one of the things that I am most excited for when we do the feedback show later this week is to find out how Rob feels about Father Gabriel. Because I feel like Rob's is not like a super forgiving man when a character has crossed him. I would like to think that he's going to be, thumbs up on what Father Gabriel did tonight, but it might be too little too late. What's your prediction?
Yeah, probably. I think, it'd be easier if Rob had seen The Wire, but I guess since he hasn't, or to the best of my knowledge, he hasn't, it's going to be tougher. I agree with you. I think it's going to be we'll wait and see approach. But
you're a big Seth Gilliam fan? You like the actor?
Oh yeah, I think he was great.
Yeah, no, he's a great actor. He's been in a lot of stuff. He's been fantastic in a lot of movies and shows. And it was exciting that he was being cast as his character, and knowing from the comics that, Gabriel at least begins sort of douchily. I was definitely expecting him to be a little bit douchey on the show, but I didn't expect like the level of vitriol that has been leveled at that character since we've met him. So hopefully at least there's a little bit of a turnaround here.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm excited to see where we go. I mean, I think lines like "you gonna kill me, Padre" and stuff going forward is just like more of that, please. I really love that. I don't know what it is about it, but I love that element.
No, it was cool. If he can embrace that, it could be a cool character.
Yeah, really cool. Okay, here's another question from Cabin Douche. Who wore their heart on their sleeve more tonight? Abraham, Carol, or Negan's group?
Yeah, literally. Negan's group was really weird.
Look, it's my heart. It's running down my sleeve.
Well, I feel like, I think we should analyze the Abraham thing just a little bit more. Like, do you think that is it just that Abraham is just like this savage asshole, and just like being just like a total Abraham douche to Rosita just because he is naturally, a handlebar mustache douche to begin with? Or is he like trying to protect her in some way? Is he trying to push her away so that it's going to be like an easy? I feel like even just saying it, that sounds too generous.
Or is he just a simple guy? It's like Sasha. I want to be with Sasha. Sasha says you got to get rid of. Okay, I'll go get rid of Rosita. Like, is he just following orders? Like, There's so many levels that it could be going on. And yeah, I mean, but most of them involve either being a dick or being insensitive on some level. So it's not a whole lot of credit you can give the guy for this.
Yeah, I really don't think so. I'd like to find that ounce of credit that you could give to Abraham tonight, but I don't think that it's really there.
I think we're all looking for it, because how do you not love Abraham? But
I know, but it was a bad night for Abraham. I mean, he has the funny Dingleberries line in one breath, and then in the next breath, he's just being an awful human to Rosita. So
yeah,
I feel like he definitely laid it out on the line tonight, and I think that Carol had a good night too in terms of she got some nookie. They did it all for the cookie for the first time in a little while for Carol. That looks good, but I think that Abraham was definitely more vocal about what was in his heart tonight.
Yeah. I mean, Abraham is certainly not a beat around the bush type of guy. He's always going to tell you how it is, and I think that was just par for the course. This is how he knows to communicate.
Yeah. All right. Let's take two more questions tonight.
Okay. This is good. I had Haiku Fishback. This has nothing to do with the episode, but who do you think would last longer in the apocalypse between you two?
Between the two of us?
Yeah. What do you think?
Without knowing too much about you, Alex Kidwell, I got money on you.
Oh, yeah, I was going to put my money on you.
Oh, well, you are going to be broke.
I think this is one of those questions where, if we were in the movie, we're the first two in some order.
I mean, You're talking about military tactics. You seem like you know a thing or two about guns, at least. I got squat. I've seen Aliens a bunch of times. I know James Cameron action movies a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
I know the Marvel Cinematic Universe decently well. I'm hip to Game of Thrones. I'm hip to Walking Dead. I don't know how much of that's going to translate. So I got money on Alex.
Well, as for myself, I just watched The Hurt Locker for the first time this week. So that's where that's coming from.
That'll happen. I don't think that's going to have much bearing on your ability to survive. Plus, you're scrappy. You're scrappy. You're in better shape than I am. I feel good about you, Alex. I think that you can handle it.
Yeah. Well, I would call it wishful thinking for either of us, probably. A best case scenario.
Yeah. No, I subscribe to Robert Kirkman's plan. Robert Kirkman talks about what he would do in the zombie apocalypse off, and he's like, I would just jump off a bridge immediately. I think that feels like probably the best bet for me.
Yeah, you like the CDC strategy.
Right, yeah. Just make it easy. Just get out of here. So craven. I'm so craven. All right, let's do one more tonight.
Okay. Let's see.
Unless we don't have any, we could start wrapping up.
No, we've got one. Brad Ass TV. Man, that episode was intense. I think The Walking Dead is 3 for 3 since returning, but how can Carol get captured? So do you agree? Do you think this is 3 for 3 in terms of great episodes so far this season to start it off?
Yeah, I think that this was my favorite episode of the bunch. I had some problems with the mid-season premiere in terms of pacing, in terms of timing with the mid-season finale that I haven't completely absolved it for just my personal take on it. I really enjoyed last week's. I thought last week's was fun. I thought that the one before that. So it's been 4. I think that this is the best of the 4. This feels like the best of the 4 to me. Hilltop was really, really cool to see, but this was so intensely action-packed, and we got some really fun character stuff as well. I'm Team Cabin for sure. Like, I was very excited to see Carol and Tobin get together. I thought that was great. The Abraham and Rosita scene, although it was ugly, like it was big stuff on the show. Denise and Tara, I liked seeing those characters together. And so when you combine those, smaller character beats that this show, tends to do sometimes in episodes and really just blow those up and not have a ton of zombie action on top of it, you have this crazy action scene that takes up the last, 3 acts of the episode. So for my money, this is like the JSS of the back half of the season so far. And hopefully, given the stakes right now, it can only continue. So yeah, it's trending well right now. I think we're in good shape. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think you made the point. I think it might have been after the finale, the mid-season finale, where you talked about kind of how this feels like a complete comic book arc. And sometimes when you're kind of doing a full arc like that, there tend to be periods in there that kind of lull a bit. And I think we've certainly gotten to the point of whatever story's being told where we're kind of, pounding towards a conclusion. We've got like a very clear, goal in sight for these characters and these villains and kind of what direction we're going. And I think it's all very evident by the episodes because there's not any kind of lost time in there. It seems like everything is driving towards some kind of purpose in these episodes. It's great.
Totally. All right, let's wrap up tonight. Hashtag I'm good with Team Cabin if you are, Alex.
Sounds good to me.
Hashtag Team Cabin. You tweet that our way. I'm at Round Howard. Alex is at Alex Kidwell. We'll be back later this week with a Walking Dead feedback show. Rob will return for that. So get your comments, get your questions into us. There's a bunch of ways you can do that. All the ways that we already mentioned earlier, postshowrecaps.com. You can leave it on the show page. You can leave it on YouTube. You can email email us, twd@postshowrecaps.com. You can submit through our feedback form, postshowrecaps.com/feedback. You can leave us voicemail, postshowrecaps.com/voicemail. We are recording the feedback show this week, Tuesday morning, so you have until Tuesday morning to send all those questions in. Please do that. Really excited to get Rob's take on this episode. We'll also have a Walking Dead book club. That's the podcast I'm doing with Jessica Leese, where we are talking about these episodes of Walking Dead from the perspective of people reading the comics. So it's full-blown spoiler mode in those book club podcasts. So tread lightly, as Walter White might say, but that's going to be very fun. I think we're going to record that on Monday night this week, if not Tuesday night. We will figure that out. So you can get your questions in all the same ways we talked about before. Alex, anything else from you as we're talking about Walking Dead and wrapping this thing up?
No, I think anything else I would have said has probably already been said by JB Smoove on Talking Dead.
Yeah,
so I'm gonna let it stand.
JB Smoove on Talking Dead. You know, I was really hoping when Rob said that he couldn't be here tonight that he was going to appear on Talking Dead. I was really fingers crossed that he was punking us and he was gonna drop that on us. But I'm good with JB Smoove on Talking Dead if we can't get Rob Cesternino on there.
Yeah, we got to get that movement started, Josh. We got to get that in action. Get the people rised up here.
Yeah, Yeah, we want Rob on Talking Dead, so we'll keep working on that. Alex, great stuff tonight. Very fun. Awesome job filling in for Rob. Everybody else, we will talk to you again this week. Subscribe to what we're doing, postshowrecaps.com/iTunes for everything, and postshowrecaps.com/TWD iTunes just for Walking Dead. Until then, take care, everybody. Peace out.